What got you interested in meteorology?
It was back in 2007. I was probably like 10 years old. There was a really strong thunderstorm that went through my neighborhood. And I was very scared in the moment because there was a tornado warning. I knew everything you had to do when there's a tornado warning. You had to take shelter. You kind of just were afraid of what was going to come. So after the storm ended, which was just an onslaught of wind, heavy rain, lightning, I looked outside. It was just trees uprooted everywhere. And so really just seeing the force of nature, just seeing how quickly things can change, I wanted to know, how did that happen? So like, I was paralyzed in fear in that moment, but then after that, it turned into curiosity. And so I really got interested in thunderstorms. That winter, I started reading books on snow, how winter storms form. And so I just started self-teaching myself a lot of stuff. So by the time I was in middle school and high school, I basically knew that meteorology was going to be the field for me.
What were you like as a high school student?
When I was in high school, this TV studio, this was basically where I lived. And so we had a morning announcement show that we did every day. And so that was a whole team effort. I mean, there was a weather forecast part of it too. And so I would do that sometimes. And so that's where I spent most of my time. I also did Desi Club.
What were your favorite classes at Fox Chapel?
So I was a big science nerd. So really any science class I had interest in. I loved AP and Sci. I actually enjoyed physics, chemistry. I liked chemistry. Math was never my strong suit. And then obviously we had advanced TV production at the time. So I did that a couple years and that was always during first period. So that's how my day started.
Who was your most influential teacher or mentor?
Mr. Doug Martin, who obviously isn't here anymore. He was the TV production teacher at the time. And then Scott Hand. So he used to teach on-camera performance, actually. I always sought those two for advice, whether it was anything in class or career-related. I feel like those two were the first to kind of get me on the right path towards my career. Not just as teachers, but even now, I still consider them friends.
What are some of your favorite memories as a high schooler at FC?
I think my favorite memory was doing the telethon. It was a little different back then. It was a 2-hour live thing. I think doing that was my favorite, just because it was a whole semester-long effort that culminated into 2 hours of what I thought was greatness. And then it aired out to the community and to the school. And so that was always my favorite day of the year, was telethon day.
What's your favorite part of working for WPXI?
For me, it's special because that was a station I grew up watching. Even as a kid, I have memories of who was the meteorologist at the time, who the anchors were. And so for me, it was obviously about getting back home, but getting to work for the station that I grew up watching is even more special. Just working every day with those people that I looked up to, I always kind of have to remind myself, like, this seemed, and it still does seem kind of unreal. So I'd say, honestly, that's my favorite part. Not even the job itself, but being there with those people that I looked up to growing up.
What does an average day of work look like for you?
We have certain broadcasts that we do. So we have a morning show, noon show, evening show, depends on the shift. And then in between, we're working on producing graphics. So everything that is seen on television in terms of our maps behind us, that's all produced by us, the meteorologists. So we're working on graphics and then really any fun storytelling ideas. Especially in this age of weather where there's just so many extremes happening, there's always a fun, unique way to tell the weather story. Whether it's doing live report out in the field or doing some sort of three-dimensional graphics use, really thinking of those kind of ideas and planning those out. I'd say that's probably what most of the day is.
Do you prefer being on the field or do you prefer being in studio?
I like both. Like in the studio is cool. It's like what I'm used to, but after a while, you want to get outside and do something different, especially if there is something to talk about. So for an example, we had some flooding back in the spring in the Allegheny River. All the rivers were getting very, very high. And so we decided to go down and talk about the river levels. So I was live for a 4, 5, and 6 o'clock newscast, showing the river levels, how much they were rising, giving people perspective, like, okay, how bad is this compared to previous events? Hurricane Ivan in 2004, that was some of the worst flooding we've ever seen. So things like that I really like doing just because it mixes up the day a little bit.
What advice would you give to anyone who wants to go into the meteorology field?
I think being skilled in different fields is very important. This is not anymore, okay, I'm gonna get my degree and then I'm gonna get my job and work on television or whatever it may be. Things are changing. The TV industry is changing, and so what I always tell people is to get that second major or a minor. Have something else in your back pocket, especially if it's related to computers or coding, because you never know where that could take you. And the role of the meteorologist, again, is just changing as time goes on. So I think having multiple skill sets is very important. And obviously in a field like television, public speaking is so important, because I know many people who left TV and were able to get jobs pretty quickly because, we're weather communicators. And so being an effective communicator can really get you many places.
What's something most people don't know about being a meteorologist?
We're not wrong 50% of the time. There are so many factors at play when it comes to weather, and we're never going to be able to solve all of them. This is an imperfect science. It always has been, it always will be. Luckily, the field has changed where modeling has gotten so much better, which means our predictions are getting so much better. So we've gotten a lot better as an industry, but there's still going to be times where the forecast is maybe a little less confident than other days, especially, when we have those big storms come on through. People always joke and say the weatherman's always wrong. Yeah, and I play along with that. But I think people don't realize sometimes how tough it is, because it's not just a matter of what's going to happen here, but there's a lot of different places that we forecast for. And in this part of the country, 50 miles can make a huge difference from all rain to snow, ice, whatever it may be. So I think people sometimes maybe just forget how complex it can be, in that it's not going to be 100%, but I really think that we've gotten a lot better over the last 20, 30 years.
What advice would you give the students who want to pursue a meteor-related career?
I'd say the earlier you can get started, the better. Reach out to people. Connections are so important in this business. And honestly, TV is a pretty small industry when it comes to how many people know each other. You never know what news director you could work with, who knows the news director at what your next job could be. So I'd say the more you can establish those connections, and like I was in high school, I was always emailing people asking for a shadow shift. Even in college, I was always bugging people asking for internships. It does pay off, because not only does it help that resume, but having those connections can really help you get set up for the future, and you never know who could get you that next job.